Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Hey, howdy, hey, gamers of the internet this time. See what I did there? This is Wolfman 407 Dash. So I thought today, because I want to do a gaming sort of vlog today, I thought to go through all the different sort of terms, wording, acronyms and so forth that you hear people in the gaming industry say to advertise all their different games, and yeah, let's go through. So I've got a list here. I'll go through it all and just try and explain and see what I feel about them and all that. So yeah, most of these still do apply today, but a few don't apply as much today as they did some time ago. So yeah, anyway, let's get started. So first up is free to play. This one is self-explanatory. It's basically a game that you can download and play for free. The base game of it is free, but if you want to have like stuff like extra skins, characters, vehicles, or whatever, you will need to get some in-game currency, which costs money. So in that sense, the game is free to play and download. You just need that extra bit of money, and that's usually applied to mobile games more so than PC or console games. So there's that one. Next is AAA or AAA games. This is usually used to describe. Oh God.
You've got mail.
Sorry about that. Someone was at the door giving me stuff. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so AAA games, they're basically games released by major studios that are like the big blockbuster games, the ones that people want to play more so than anything else. So there's those ones. I should say that there is a difference between AAA and indie. Indie are usually games that are made by not so well-known developers, but are quite small in comparison to the big ones, which are the AAA games. So there's that. Sorry, a bit out of breath. Whew. Okay, next, DLC and expansions. So these are things that usually are added to the game if you want to add them to the game, usually costing money. But what they basically do is expand the game. So sometimes DLC and expansions are usually just to bring more stuff into the game, keep people invested, and just gives you a better experience. Whether it's to continue the story a bit more, whatever, it is what it is. So yeah. Next is FPS. So this stands for frames per second. This is a big thing for us gamers that like to be a bit more technical, because always important that the frame rate is at a good length, because sometimes games are locked at 30 frames or 60 frames, and when it's at 10 frames you're in trouble, because 10 frames is like very slow, and 60 frames and whatever is much faster and so forth. Just keeps the game going, really. So yeah. Next, Easter eggs. So not like Easter eggs as in the sort of chocolate eggs you get around sort of March, April time. No, these are things that are left in the game for people to find, that are usually references to other people's works, or just something that the developers like to put in. It's like, as I said in the Pixar video, the Easter eggs that Pixar leave in their films. So A113, the Pizza Planet truck, and all that stuff. So that's what Easter eggs is. Season pass. That is basically buying all the DLC for one small price, and the DLC just gets released and added to your game as and when they get released. And the good thing about the season pass is that you can actually get all the major DLC for the game just for that one price, and it just gets added as and when they come out. It's just a way to keep people invested in the game. So yeah, just like with DLC. Cinematics. So as some of us know from since the days when PlayStation released Heavy Rain on the PS3, there have been a lot of games where it's had a sort of cinematic feel to them, and usually when it's got a cinematic feel, it feels like it's it feels like it's trying to be a film but released on an interactive medium. So a film is obviously a medium that's non-interactive, and it's basically been put onto a medium that is interactive, meaning that some of the actors' faces will be seen in the game, and you get some sort of gameplay. Like usually there's like quick time events and others and decision making and other stuff. But when it's cinematic, it usually means it's a film in a game. And yeah, enough said about that. Next, glitch. Everybody, most of you know what a glitch is. It's usually when something happens to a models or characters and so forth, and usually some of the best glitches are the ones that are just make things a bit more silly, especially if it's in a serious moment in the game. And then the worst glitches are the ones that make the game unplayable or just difficult for you to move on, and in those situations it's best to just restart the game. Some glitches are fun, some are not. It's just the way it is. So yeah. Okay, next are mods. Now, as you'll have known from seeing my Saints Row 4 video, some games on PC you can mod. And some of these mods can be things like increasing the performance, or just adding some things to the game, or just replacing character mods with something you like. So, for example, in my case, I like to have my characters show a bit more flesh, or just want the game to perform better because it may, for whatever reason, be locked onto a certain frame rate or something. So yeah, that's what mods are, and they are on consoles, but it's not quite customizable like PCs are. So there's that. HP. So for these are applied in like role-playing games. So HP usually means health points. So it's the thing that keeps your characters alive. If you lose it all, you die, or it's game over. And you just need to have items to use to keep yourself going. So that's what HP is. Lag usually means when a game is going really slowly to the point where it's like just unplayable and very low frames per second. It's best you check out verified integrity if you're playing on Steam, and just reinstalling on all that. That's what lag is. MMORPG, which stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. So think games like World of Warcraft, DC Universe Online. There's probably others I'm missing. I think Diablo's one, not sure about that. But yeah, those are basically games which have subscriptions that you need to get in order to play them. But after a while, they're usually made free to play. So they use the free to play model there. If the developers choose to. So next is MP. Usually a thing that's applied to that comes with HP. MP stands for magic or mana points, and that usually means that you can do these extra abilities that require points in order to, get those things going. So that's what that is. So next is something that people call people names on the internet. It happens, you get flame wars and so forth, but these two are ones that are not too insulting, but they can be insulting in a way, which is noob, NOOB, and noob, NEWB. The former is when it's the first time you play in a game and someone's calling you that because you just don't know what to do and you're just clueless. And noob is when it's similar, but it's when you're brand new to a game or something like that. It's a bit challenging to explain those ones. PvE stands for player versus enemy or environment, and PvP stands for player versus player. These are usually used in online games, so that's self-explanatory. QTE usually stands for quick time events. So as I said when I was talking about cinematic, these are times where you have to have your controller ready and just press the button as when they come up, and if you miss them, it's either game over or the game continues and you just have to make do with the damage that you've caused to yourself. So yeah. Rage quit. self-explanatory. You get so frustrated with the game that you decided that enough's enough, you're quitting out the game. Simple as that. Sandbox. This is not a box of sand. These are usually when you get games that are where you play the game and you're in this big world that you can do all sorts of stuff, and it continues to generate as it's open-ended. We'll get to that. We'll get to more of that later. Open world, similarly to Sandbox, you get a big world that you can explore that's got the story and all these other bits, and it's basically just one level the whole time when it's open world. You just that one level and it's just big, and that's where the whole story and all that takes place, usually. XP or EXP or XP. Again, like HP and MP, these are also usually in our role-playing games. And these are just experience points that you get just by playing the game, and you usually are able to upgrade your abilities, skill trees, and so forth when you get experience points. Very important if you want to be better at what you do in the game and just keep progressing the story and all that, and just complete it. So that's that one. Next one is jump scares. If you've played Five Nights at Freddy's or any horror sort of game, you'll know what these are. These are basically just sudden noises or appearances by someone that makes you jump out of your seat, and that's all. And that's really what they are. And they're in the horror films as well. So yeah. Innovation. You hear this word a lot in all sorts of things, but innovation is usually when in the game world is usually when someone tries to do something new or new-ish to the gameplay or whatever, or if it's not new, just do something that's different from the norm for all different gameplay mechanics. So, for example, one innovation I know of is using the actual faces of actors in the games rather than just use a generic face, whatever. That can count as innovation when it was first done, but it's not so much innovation these days. So yeah. Esports. It's you hear this a lot. These are games that are played competitively, and it's in a very sort of sport-like environments, and you've got commentators and everything. That's what esports is. Basically video games that's played competitively with commentators and everything. So that is what it is. So now let's talk about the difference between different editions of games. So usually when a AAA game is on the way, or an indie game or whatever comes out, you usually get a choice of up to three editions. So the first is the standard one, where you just basically get the base game and maybe a few extra bits, but otherwise it's just the base game. Second is the Deluxe Edition, where you get the base game and some DLC, but not all DLC. And then the third one is like the Ultimate Edition, the big one, all the DLC you can think of. That's all in that one package. So that's usually what those means. But sometimes you do get other different editions as well, such as Game of the Year, which is usually when a game has done really well and then gets re-released to include all the additional content, the DLC and so forth. So that's what that means. So, procedurally generated. You'll have heard this one a lot in Minecraft. This is usually when like when it's open-ended, it's usually when you can play the game as much as you want, but no matter how far you go, there is no end to it. It just keeps generating environments, enemies, items, and so forth. It just keeps going, which was kind of innovative when Minecraft did it, and lots of other games have been trying to do it, like No Man's Sky, but it's just not the same to me, anyway. What else? Retro usually means old but cool. These are usually applied to games that have like Super Nintendo or Nintendo Entertainment System or Mega Drive graphics. But they're not exactly those graphics. They're actually using software like chiptunes to make it look like it's got a retro feel to it, because If you think games like Sonic Mania, sure, you could probably play that on Mega Drive, but the 3D element of that would be a bit impossible to do on the Mega Drive if you think about it. So that's what retro is. Old but cool, usually applied to games that have a pixel feel to them. And I like the console I mentioned. Early access. Pretty much what it says on the tin. You get access to the game early, and it's usually an excuse for the developers to allow you to buy the game and play it as much as you want, and basically feedback in case there's like any errors or whatever to the game, to the developers. So at the moment, one of the early access games I'm playing is Disney Dreamlight Valley, which is a fun sort of life simulator game with Disney characters. And I played that when it was in early access mode, and it's a lot of fun and great to move stuff around and so forth. Oh, got a notification. Check that later. Next, rich history. You hear people say rich history in games, and this usually means that the game is based on a sort of historical, excuse me, a historical setting. So think Assassin's Creed, where history is the playground. It usually means that they've done all the research on history, but it doesn't necessarily that they'll be following it exactly word for word by the book and all that. That's basically what rich history means in that sense. IP, stands for intellectual property, which is usually the name of a franchise. So if you hear someone say new IP, it means it's a brand new franchise with one game at the moment, but it intends to have more games in the future. So that's what IP means in that sense. Quills, so sequel, prequel, midquel, just further entries in a series. Usually, some people may see it as a cash grab. With prequels being a cash grab, that means that there's no pre-existing characters that are intended to die in that or whatever. Lots of us love sequels, prequels, midquels, and all that, but we do need some originality as well, guys. So, yeah, well, for me anyway. Next one is another self-explanatory one: multiple endings. Some games have multiple endings depending on the actions you do in the game. So, for example, Heavy Rain has multiple endings. So usually dependent on your actions in the 4 characters you play as, and that's the end of that, basically. And last one I'm going to talk about today is loot boxes. So these aren't too bad in the AAA games these days, but there used to be a time where AAA games would follow the same course as mobile games, in which they would have loot boxes that contain, well, loot for your characters and so forth. And it's okay, but it can be seen as a sort of cash grab on the developers' front, because we love loot, but some of us much rather find the loot ourselves instead of going to do what the developers tell us to do by buying these loot boxes. So yeah, there's lots of other different sort of word that you hear in the gaming industry, and even other industries too. I'll probably do another one on films or whatever at a later date. But yeah, those are basically what those mean. And honestly, some do make sense, others don't, which is fine. And I've just realised I've missed 2 out. Whoops. Pre-order. So a game that's not released yet, but you can make the purchase and order it now, and then it'll just be added to your library as and when it's released. If you're buying the digital version, or if you're buying the retail physical version, then it'll just arrive as and when it arrives. And diversity, a developer intending to make the game diverse, full of characters that are different. So characters of a different race, characters of the LGBTQ plus community, characters that are one gender but actually identify as another gender. That's what diversity means. Just be open to all, for anyone and everyone. Something of which I know J.K. Rowling could definitely do with her franchise, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, I think that's all of them. Yes, that is all of them. So once again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to share your own thoughts about these different buzzwords that are used for games, please do so in the comments below, or whatever the comments are on the device you use. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'm looking forward to doing a 75 subscriber special. I'm not sure what will be yet, but hopefully something good. So yes. Also check out my blog, which is in the description below as well, if you want film reviews, top 25s and other stuff. And also check out my YouTuber friends as well, which again are also in the description below and also on my channel page. And that's it. I shall leave you back now. Go back to your games and have fun playing them, because that's what games are supposed to be, fun, not games that you need to rage quit or whatever. So yeah. Anyway, I will see you in the next one. Peace.